First tonight, on the final day of the NATO summit in Washington, Russia's reaction to the military alliance's pledge of additional military assistance to Ukraine made at the NATO gathering in the U.S. capital has been an angry one. The Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, told reporters that it was a very serious threat to Russia's national security. He said that with the alliance insisting that Ukraine is on an irreversible path to NATO membership, it was clear that Western leaders were seeking Russia's strategic defeat. Moscow, he said, would respond with coordinated measures to keep NATO in check, but provided no details of what those might be. Earlier, in a joint statement delivered by the outgoing Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg, NATO leaders pledged a minimum $40 billion of military aid to Kyiv over the coming year. In addition, Mr. Stoltenberg outlined further NATO measures to support Ukraine with training and logistics. Meanwhile, China has fiercely rejected claims by NATO leaders that it's enabling Russia's war in Ukraine. It said the NATO gathering in the U.S. capital was hyping up Beijing's involvement. The gathering initially focused on NATO members' support for Ukraine, but then moved on to China's role in the conflict, prompting a tough response from the Chinese Foreign Ministry. It said the rhetoric from NATO was belligerent and full of Cold War mentality, and the content related to China was full of bias, smears and provocations, which it said China strongly deplores and resolutely opposes.
Putin is global, not regional. Putin's war is fueled by those who do not share our values. Iran and North Korea provide direct military support, while China is propping up Russia's war economy. This is not just a temporary collision of convenience, it is a major strategic shift. And we must remain clear-eyed as to the threat it poses. As NATO allies agreed today in our summit declaration, China has become a decisive enabler of Russia's war against Ukraine. And China's support increases the threat Russia poses to Euro-Atlantic security. Allies have stated clearly that China cannot enable the largest conflict in Europe in recent history without this negatively impacting their interest and reputation. Tomorrow, NATO allies will meet with our 4 Indo-Pacific partners and the European Union, and we will continue to deepen our cooperation in addressing shared challenges.
NATO's hyping up China's responsibility on the Ukraine issue is unreasonable and has sinister motives. China's objective and fair stance on the Ukraine issue and the constructive role it has played have been widely recognized by the international community. NATO continuously spreads information fabricated by the US without evidence, openly smears China, sows discord in China-Europe relations, and undermines China-Europe cooperation. It is obvious to the international community who is fanning flames and adding fuel to the fire in the prolonged Ukraine crisis. We urge NATO to reflect on the root causes of the crisis and its own actions, listen carefully to the just voices of the international community, and take practical actions to defuse the situation, rather than shifting blames and scapegoating others. China urges NATO to abandon its outdated concepts of Cold War mentality, block confrontation and zero-sum game, correct its wrong perception of China, stop interfering in China's internal politics and smearing China's image, and do not create chaos in the Asia-Pacific after creating turmoil in Europe.
纠正错误的对华认知，停止